We have some breaking news. Basically, as we're filming this, it's been confirmed that Daniel Ricciardo will move to McLaren in Formula One for 2021, which means Carlos Sainz has left the team and will probably sign for Ferrari later today. So,
Wow,
nice timestamp when we're recording this, but no,
good.
that's literally just come through this second. So I just wanted to put that out there so everyone in this call knows.
Right, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Why on earth have Ferrari, Will, not gone with Daniel Ricciardo? Because, yeah, okay, fine, he's gone to McLaren, and McLaren are an up-and-coming team, and, McLaren have got the history. You'd expect them to move forward and continue moving forward as they are, to sort of catch up and become the McLaren that, people will remember in the early 2000s, the beginning of the 2010 era and in the history. But with Ricciardo on offer, surely he wanted that Ferrari seat.
Yeah, I imagine he did. Even if it is supposedly a kind of de facto, even potentially written into your contract kind of situation that you will be number two, I think he will have a tinge of disappointment. Although, given that McLaren are going back to Mercedes, given the kind of interesting kind of technical appointments they've made with like Andreas Seidel, and some of this has some others kind of within the kind of technical department as well. I think that this is still a pretty good move for him. I think that he's probably the fastest driver on the grid that they could have realistically gone for. So I don't think Hamilton or Verstappen was an option really for them. And obviously they just got rid of Vettel. So I think if they kind of just wanted to go for the fastest driver available, I think it probably would have been Ricciardo. But I guess, he is slightly older than Sainz. And potentially they don't want to kind of create an atmosphere where kind of Leclerc thinks they're bringing in someone to challenge him. I think Sainz is still obviously a very good driver, but maybe they feel that he is more someone who would slip into that number two role. He's younger as well, so maybe they kind of think they can build this partnership over a long period of time. But it's an interesting one. I agree that if they want to go for the fastest driver on the grid, I think you go for Ricciardo. And if you want to go for kind of the best number two option, I think you go for Bottas. So it's an interesting one in going for Sainz because I don't see he fits either of those two categories.
For me, it's interesting. A lot of people have been saying that, obviously, Ricciardo going to McLaren, I think it's a great move for McLaren. In McLaren as a whole, Jack, it's a fantastic move. Again, they've managed to build up a really marketable team in terms of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, which is brilliant. Everyone wants to watch them two. Everyone wants to put them two together. Everyone wants to make challenges with those two. And I'm pretty sure now that it's the last year of those two together, there's going to be plenty more challenges if the season does restart, going on to and enjoying that friendship. But they're not losing any marketability, McLaren, by signing Ricciardo. And this is what we will talk about with Ferrari signing, Ricciardo. Their marketability would increase. People be more interested in Ferrari. Ricciardo's that kind of character people will get behind and maybe reveal some fun, a different side of Ferrari. Whereas I have a feeling with Norris and Ricciardo, that's going to be incredibly marketable. There's going to be lots of sponsors who will be interested in that team, and that could help them move forward drastically going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel Ricciardo is one of the most popular drivers in Formula One right now, as is Lando Norris. So yeah, I think this could be a win for McLaren. I think I'm worried that because we've got the two big I really don't want to say the word meme lords because it makes me sound about 12, but the two who are most social media content heavy, they in the team it might work really well. It might not work, but in terms of Carlos Sainz going to Ferrari, I agree with Will. I don't think it was the right choice. I think we saw last year that with Vettel and Leclerc that one and two works. Having two number ones doesn't work right now for Ferrari, especially under Mattia Binotto. And so yeah, I think what should have happened is that they should have gone for they should have tempted Bottas away from Mercedes, or they should have gone for they could have bought Sergio Perez's Aston Martin contract out. They could have done something like that. In the end, they didn't, and they went for Carlos Sainz. And so yeah, I'm not sure whether it will work, but we will just have to wait and see. Also, one thing that I do know about it is that when Carlos is announced next year, it will be the first time that two drivers have the same name in different languages since Kvyat and Ricciardo a couple of years ago at Red Bull.
Oh wow!
Also,
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
what?
Also, the McLaren one is first British Australian partnership since Coulthard Webber.
Oh, okay, interesting. But what I was thinking in terms of Carlos Sainz, like what a career this guy's had, right? Let's remind ourselves. Okay, was up against Max Verstappen in that Toro Rosso. Obviously lost out to Red Bull. Then gets dropped by Red Bull essentially. Then goes to Renault. Nearly finds himself out of Formula One. Then is picked up by McLaren and now is potentially a Ferrari driver wheel. Like, wow, the emotions of nearly possibly being out of Formula One to now being a Ferrari driver, like, and I know we're saying that he might be, a number two, but he'll be out there to prove a point, especially to Red Bull, to say, look, you cut me, it should have been me in that seat rather than Pierre Gasly, for example.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you say about whether he's number one or on equal footing or he's number two, going to Ferrari gives him the chance to win races, to get podiums, and to potentially even win a championship if kind of all things go really well at Ferrari. Yeah, it's fun. It's an amazing story in a way to think, kind of coming off the back of a season at Renault when he's kind of lost out over a season to Nico Hülkenberg, and he's moving into a team in McLaren who just kind of been one of the slowest cars on the grid in 2018, and it's a fantastic turnaround in it. And that move to McLaren, which at the time could have been seen as a bit of a step backwards, going from Renault, who were at the time the kind of best of the rest, and a manufacturer team, it's an incredible turnaround. He obviously had a very good season last year. I think that kind of given the strength of the McLaren, that was kind of the minimum requirement for Sainz in kind of getting to be the best of the rest. Obviously, the situation with Gasly and Albon meant that he could kind of get up into sixth place, but I think that sixth place was only a possibility because of the struggles in the second Red Bull seat and the fact that they switched halfway through the season. So he did a good job last season. I'm still not convinced he is kind of like top level in terms of speed. Like, he was obviously actually out qualified by Norris, and Norris had more Q3 appearances than him. He's obviously good in racecraft, but also another part of that is that he potentially didn't have to make as many overtakes last season as he might do at a Ferrari, because that McLaren was often kind of really at the front of the midfield, especially in the second half of the season. So I think he's a good driver, but I'm still not convinced he's kind of very top level, and it'd be interesting to see how he matches up with Leclerc.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, we've been one of the advantages of being in COVID-19 for us in terms of is seeing the likes of Leclerc, George Russell, Alexander Albon, Lando Norris, get on with each other as much as they as they have, and we've really seen the personality of them grow. It would be interesting to see, Carlos Sainz is sort of in that group slightly, especially with Lando Norris and so forth. So it would be really interesting to see if he's gonna, he's got a what is it, one of those play seat things that he can do the virtual GP in, Jack. So it'd be interesting to probably try and see a little bit more of him, and a little bit more of him and Leclerc now might be actually quite interesting to see how how they are together before, give us a little bit of a snapshot of what life could be like in Ferrari next year.
Yeah, definitely. Who knows? We might even see in the next virtual race maybe Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo in the Ferrari and McLaren, respectively. I doubt it because they're still under contract with their own teams. But no, I think I think it will be an interesting partnership. It could work, but actually, one thing that came to my mind was I'm going to say this now, and it's going to be on camera. So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Carlos Sainz will win a world championship before Max Verstappen. That is what I'm going to say. That is what I'm going to say.
Oh. So you're going to say then, so it won't be a number two situation, because obviously for Carlos Sainz to do that, he's actually got to, hit the ground running with Leclerc.
I think I think Carlos maybe has to play the number 2 situation. However, I think it's going to be more like what we saw with like Kimi and Felipe about a decade ago when they raced for Ferrari, because they were very close to each other in each season. But one prevailed in 2007, which was Kimi. Then one prevailed in 2008, which was Felipe. Felipe
And an
just missing
interesting,
out on the championship. But
yeah, an interesting thing about that is that I was actually going to reference the Massa and Raikkonen partnership, because obviously they actually both ended up helping each other out. You know, Massa moved aside in Brazil to help Raikkonen, and without that, Raikkonen wouldn't have won the championship in 2007. And then Raikkonen did the same thing in China in 2008 to let Massa through, which kind of gave Massa that advantage to get a bit closer to Hamilton going into the finale. So yeah, that was an interesting partnership. I don't think that Sainz is quite going to be kind of as even as those two were with Leclerc, but yeah, it's definitely I think that's what they could have gone for with Ricciardo and Leclerc, having that kind of partnership. And you know, they get through halfway through the season, they see whoever is the best at that point, then maybe they get the backing. I think that would have been the best way for them to go about it, but I think that's something Ricciardo would agree to as well.